Well, for more insight now, let's speak to Peter Alexander, Professor of Global Food Systems at the University of Edinburgh. Professor Alexander, great to have you on the show. So the Strait of Hormuz is not only important for energy supplies, but apparently also for agriculture.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So agriculture is very dependent on the fossil fuel sector. Since the Green Revolution, we use a lot of inorganic fertilizer, inorganic nitrogen being the most widely used fertilizer, and that's produced from natural gas primarily, and sometimes coal, through the harbour wash process. And obviously, because of the abundance of fossil fuels in the Gulf region, obviously they are a major player in production of urea, which is the major form of inorganic nitrogen fertilizer, and you know, as you said, as the person who was part of that package correctly said, roughly a third of urea passes through the Straits of Hormuz in normal times, and that obviously has been disrupted with this conflict. The one thing that was exactly correct. It's not true to say that a third of urea on the kind of global supply of urea is from the Gulf, because a lot of urea is produced and consumed actually in the same country. Because all you really need is that natural gas and the facilities to do it. There's no kind of other natural resource you require. So it's more like something like 10% of, maybe a little bit less, of urea is actually supplied through the Gulf, or from the Gulf.
Well, Professor, I think for a lot of viewers who are currently watching, they are just concerned how much that will increase food prices at the end of the day. In the supermarkets, when do we see that reflected? Yeah,
so absolutely. And there's two kind of obvious, well, two kind of clear mechanisms that increase in food prices is likely to occur through. The first is, if you like, is a direct mechanism. You know, if farmers' input costs go up because the fertilizer they need to use to produce the crops increase in price, then that's passed through eventually to consumers. But there's a sort of an indirect mechanism that's actually probably more important and maybe slightly less obvious, which is that, you know, farmers might choose to not establish those crops, or maybe to fertilize less, and then as a result of those type of decisions, there's less supply of food entering the market. And that also feeds through to much higher, or potentially much higher, food prices if that occurs at a great scale, because obviously we've got similar demand chasing sort of less supply. So that sort of indirect change in farmer choices, farmer behaviour, leading to sort of lower production of food is really a concern. There's a lead time involved in that. You know, as you heard in your package, farmers are having to always have to make decisions ahead of time. You know, what crops to plant at planting season, that it was harvested 6, 9, 12 months later, depending on what they're growing and where. So the sort of issues kind of get baked into the system based on the context, the market context in which many people are making decisions around the world. So yeah, it's a complex system.
It is rather complex, and I'm afraid that we're all concerned about food prices already. Okay, thank you very much. That is Professor Peter Alexander from the University of Edinburgh. Thank you very much for your insight.